Hi, I'm Jamie Cox. I'm going to show you how I used Ancestry's DNA tools to learn more about my family tree. I found a surprise when I did this, and I think you'll find it interesting. I'm probably a fairly typical intermediate to advanced Ancestry user. I have a bit over 1,000 people on my tree, mostly from the southern United States, especially Georgia. I wanted to see which parts of my tree were backed up by DNA evidence and which parts might need more work. Ancestry says over 1 million people have taken the DNA test, and over 1,200 of them are matches to my DNA at some level. Even at the relatively close fourth cousin level, I have over 600 matches. It was difficult for me to understand what all these hints and matches actually mean. Most trees have errors in them, and I figured mine was no exception. I wanted to know which areas of my tree I could trust, and which areas might need closer investigation. Ancestry provides little in the way of visualization tools. I wanted a graphical representation of my DNA evidence. I printed out a fan chart. I made mine by printing out 8 sheets of paper from Family Tree Maker and taping them together. This one's too small to read, but I can read my larger paper copy fine. Each one of the small boxes has one person's name, birth, and death information. In my fan chart, I'm in the center with my mother above me and my father below. The circle of four people highlighted are my grandparents. The next circle further out are the great-grandparents, and then my second great-grandparents, finally my third great-grandparents. In many cases, I know additional generations beyond these, but this was enough for my purposes without the chart becoming ridiculously large. The top half of the fan chart is my mother's family. Her family was difficult for me to research, especially my maternal grandmother towards the upper right, about whom we initially knew almost nothing. As you see, I still have one brick wall in that area, one of my second great-grandmothers. In spite of these difficulties, I knew I was getting more DNA matches in my mother's family than in my father's. Maybe her family is just more prolific. My father's tree is on the bottom half of the chart. I had a lot of information here because my father had done a lot of really good genealogical research, and another family member had written down a lot of material decades ago. The first thing I marked on my chart were DNA circles. These are strong evidence since they represent more than one match. My DNA circles were all for third or fourth great-grandparents. For fourth great-grandparents, I put the mark just outside the outer circle. I also marked DNA hints. These are for a single person. Some of them are for second and third cousins. Many DNA hints are also part of a DNA circle. They would be redundant, so I omitted the redundant hints. Did you notice anything in this chart? I certainly did. I have no matches at all on my paternal grandfather's side, 0. I did not know this until I made this chart. The obvious interpretation of this is that my dad's father is not who we thought he was, and that there is something Grandma wasn't telling us. My grandparents, my father, and his siblings are all dead now, so nobody's alive that would be seriously embarrassed about this. But don't try this at home unless you can stand the answer and think twice before you tell the family what you found. The jury is still out on what this means. Grandma could be completely innocent. However, that chart seems amazingly unlikely. It's as if I had fired a DNA shotgun at my fan chart and perforated 3/4 of it pretty well while leaving 1/4 completely untouched. The lack of matches is not evidence my tree is wrong, but it's a surprising lack of evidence that it is right. One possible reason for a lack of matches could be that there is no one out there to match. I don't think that's the case. I haven't kept in touch with this part of the family, but I do know of a few cousins, some on Ancestry. I don't know yet of any that have done the DNA test. I'm looking for them. Theoretically, someone could take the DNA test tomorrow who would match me in this family. If you have an Ancestry tree with a linked DNA test, you are most interested in other users who, like you, have a DNA test linked to a tree. Those people fall into 4 categories. The great majority of them are not a DNA match to you, and their tree is not related to yours. These fall into the lower right of this chart. Ignore them. The two cases on the left where you do have a DNA match are being handled pretty well by the existing Ancestry software. These are presented as DNA hints, DNA circles, or ordinary DNA matches. But there is a fourth case, and it is an important one. In the upper right are people whose trees indicate that they should be your cousins, but their DNA does not match yours. This is something that should definitely be flagged by the software, and it's not. If this happens, it means that something is wrong with your tree, or with their tree, or maybe with both trees. Support for this fourth case would help me enormously, since I am currently out there trying to find these people manually. This feature could be a bit of a hot potato for Ancestry, since it will be politely telling their customers, "That tree that you spent all this time working on, it's wrong," or "Your grandmother was a slut." Either type of message might discourage some customers. Maybe this mismatched feature could be labeled as an advanced option. Let's talk about non-paternity. Non-paternity occurs whenever someone's father or sometimes mother is not who we might think. A woman might lie about a child's parentage to protect herself or someone else. In the case of secret adoptions, both the mother and the father of the child are probably falsified. Non-paternity is a bigger issue in genealogy than you may think. The non-paternity percentage is a hotly debated number. A pretty conservative estimate is 1.5%. That means that 1.5% of children's parents are in error in the historical records. Some estimates are much higher. Using that 1.5%, a tree that extends to your third great-grandparents has about a 1 in 5 chance of at least one non-paternity event. Extend the tree to your fourth great-grandparents, and you have more than a 1/3 chance of at least one error. So this is not a rare event. I just didn't expect to see it quite so close to home. So now I'm trying to confirm my hypothesis that my paternal grandfather and his ancestors may not be who I think they are. If my father was still alive, I would definitely get his DNA tested, but he's gone. I've had my mother tested, and this helps sort my DNA matches into paternal-maternal categories. I'm going to get my brother tested, since between the two of us, maybe we'll match some DNA circles to find out more about my father's side of the family. The ideal thing would be to find a second or third cousin on my paternal grandfather's branch of the tree and get that cousin's DNA tested to see if they show up as a match for me. If they do not, there is almost certainly something wrong with my tree in this area. If you have any suggestions for me on how to find my actual ancestors, please leave me a YouTube comment. I really wish the Ancestry software was providing some more help in this area. To start with, Ancestry should automate the labeling of trees with supporting DNA matches. It doesn't have to be a fan chart. An option to add DNA matches to the usual pedigree chart would work fine. Right now, you can only sort by relationship or date. There's so much more we need. How about sorting by the number of people on the tree born in Pennsylvania? How about filtering only those people with a tree attached? You know how you can mark a match as a favorite? I want to be able to tag a match with multiple labels that I can make up, like Smith or Jones or Georgia or Alabama, and then search on combinations of these. There are so many ways you could manipulate the data. Ancestry can't be expected to guess all the ways you would like to use it in advance. That's why they should provide some way for users or a third party to extract or manipulate the data. How about creating a programming API so third parties could create apps that can search and sort users' data? I hope this video was interesting for you. If so, please leave me a YouTube comments and like the video. Thank you.